Steven Matz, peace out. Good afternoon, Evan. How are you today, kid?
I'm a little sad about the Matz trade. I got to be honest with you. I'm going to miss him.
A little sad that Long Island's own Stevie Matz
you know what it is?
Never lived up to the hype, unfortunately. But what do you got?
I have always had this thing about with lefty starters. Just wait. They'll put it all together. Just wait with Jonathan Nies-Craig. He's going to put it all together. And a lot of times it never happens. But in 18 and 19, Matz was a pretty solid back into the rotation guy. Last year, he was a disaster. He was a disaster. And so to save $5 million, probably for other moves to come, they essentially gave up on Steven Matz. They did not get a lot back. They got back 3 low-level prospects. That Reed Foley I've seen pitch. The guy can't throw strikes. But there is a little sadness because there was a little part of me that still believed Steven Matz could put it all together. And we'll see if he can do it for the Blue Jays.
He had, he had a moment here and there.
He did.
It just hasn't been good lately. And
you're right.
You get him for a bunch of prospects, and that's not the story I was alluding to.
Oh, what were you alluding to?
We'll get to it, but
I know what you're alluding to.
It's funny.
Playing with you.
A couple hours ago, the really big story in New York was the confirmation that Deshaun Watson, again, I feel like I've told you this weeks ago, that Deshaun Watson told the Houston Texans, I'm done. We're done. Did it quietly. Didn't make a huge brouhaha about it, but told the Texans well before they brought in this 65-year-old guy to be their head coach, I'm not playing for you ever again. So figure it out. And now they're trying to figure out where to trade him. And, of course, the world goes crazy because now it's apparently official. Deshaun Watson told Houston, I will never play for you again. Figure out where to trade me.
Well,
and that, of course, for us as Jet fans, plays in right to our hands because that's what we thought was going to happen. It's what we told you had already happened. It's what did happen.
Correct.
And now if you believe in the concept of being on the clock, between now and March 17th, plenty of time. You know that Watson is willing to play for the Jets. I already confirmed that for you. You know he's also willing to play for the Dolphins. I imagine there's probably another team or two, maybe in the NFC, he would also be willing to play for. And now it's up to the New York Jets to make a decision. You know the guy's available. You know he's willing to play for you. What are you willing to do to get him? Or are you of the belief, that's not our style, that's not the way we roll, we got draft picks, we're going to use them on draft picks?
No. You go all in to get Deshaun Watson. There are 2 things, though, I wonder about, because you're right. We knew this was going to happen.
Yep.
This is not surprising news. But there's 2 major questions that need to be answered. Number 1, what are the Houston Texans going to do about it? Are they going to stare down their best player? Are they going to try to convince him to stay? Not by hiring a new head coach, but by forcing him to stay. By saying, we're not going to trade you. Now it's your turn.
I guess, listen,
what are you going to do,
that
pal?
is their prerogative.
They could.
If they want to play that game, listen, that game can be played. And you say to the guy, you've decided not to play for us, so we're not going to pay you. And for the next, 3 years, whatever it is, you're not playing professional football. Now, none of us believe that's going to happen.
No, it would get ugly, though.
But is it on the table? Yes, it depends. Here's what I know about Deshaun Watson. Everybody seems to love and respect him.
Yes.
He's not one of these douchey type of guys who doesn't get along with the boss, the owner, the GM. That's not his style from everything I've learned about him.
Right.
So I don't think it'll go in that direction.
Right.
But if I'm the McNair family, if I own the team, right? And if I'm saying to myself, listen, we did right by this kid. We gave him the $100 and whatever $1 million contract. We've only won 1 playoff game with him. We do think he's a great guy and a great quarterback. Nobody's going to hold us hostage. Now, there are some businessmen that feel that way and have no problem saying, if I have Deshaun Watson playing or I don't, I'm going to make the same amount of money. I'm a billionaire anyway. So if you want to roll those dice, roll them. We're not trading you. Now, they've not said that yet publicly.
They could, though.
I don't know if they've said it privately. But it'll be interesting. If they play that hand, that's a game.
Well,
now we're talking,
but there's 2...
Legion of Thrones.
But there's 2 negatives that happen to the Texans if they play that game. First of all, it gets ugly. You don't know how Deshaun's going to react. But here's the second negative they have to keep in mind. This is about to be historic, maybe too strong, but I'll use it anyway. A historic offseason for quarterback movement. Matthew Stafford is a very good player. He's going to be moved. I doubt Aaron Rodgers is going to be moved. But you also have a generational quarterback about to be drafted. You have a lot of potential big movements at the quarterback position. If the Houston Texans wait Deshaun Watson out and they push it to June and July, and now the musical table has settled, you're kind of eliminating teams who are going to be hot and bothered for Deshaun Watson. So what makes the most sense if you want to maximize what you can get back is to trade him now. Because no matter what team you are, outside of a select few that are good at quarterback, the Kansas City Chiefs are good at quarterback. But I swear to you, make a list of teams that feel they're good. They don't need Deshaun Watson. Craig, it's a short list.
No, it's a very short list, which is why I'm saying there's going to be other teams beyond.
Oh, I'll give you.
And I can tell you what's happened. I know this has happened. There is a list has been made. And by the way, the report out of Miami that Deshaun Watson has the Jets #1, that is 100% false. That is not true. Deshaun Watson has never prioritized which team he wants to go to. What they have done, and what would be smart for them to do, just like I'm sure Houston is doing, is, all right, let's take a look at every team not named Kansas City, right? Let's make a list of every team, and let's take a look over the next 5 years what they have as far as draft capital, right? And then let's figure out which teams really have enough to make Houston the type of offer.
But Craig, you're leaving something out.
That they're going to say yes to.
You're leaving one small thing out.
What is that?
I'll give you a specific example. What if the Baltimore Ravens called him up and said, Lamar Jackson, there you go. We're good. Lamar for Deshaun. See you later.
I don't think that'll happen.
Why?
Because I don't believe that you're going to trade an MVP.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Who's better, Deshaun Watson or Lamar Jackson?
Well, you could make an argument either way.
Okay, I think there are teams, and I'm not saying it's going to be all of them. I don't know if the Buffalo Bills would say, here's Josh Allen.
Okay.
But I think there are going to be teams that we're not thinking about. Because you're right. When you say, let's look at the teams with draft capital, the team that's #1 is the New York Jets. They are the only team in the NFL that has multiple first-round picks this year and next year.
Correct.
That's it.
Yep.
The Dolphins have 2 first-round picks this year. They don't next year. The Jaguars have 2 first-round picks next year. The Jaguars are not trading for Deshaun Watson for 2 reasons. #1 inside the division. #2, Trevor Lawrence will throw him away.
So let me give you the team that you're alluding to.
That trade
I'll tell you the team that you're alluding to without saying it.
Go.
The New York Giants.
I think they could make an offer.
Why wouldn't the Giants make an offer?
They should.
Now, as much as I think Daniel Jones is going to be very good, he ain't Deshaun Watson.
No, of course. And that's the thing, bro. I think that's a lot of teams are going to fit that mold. And look, Lamar Jackson's different because you're right, he is a former MVP. But in my opinion, as a football fan, I think Deshaun Watson's better than Lamar Jackson.
And I'll say
that's
this.
My opinion.
While the Giants don't have the draft picks that the Jets have, contractually, Daniel Jones is better than Sam Darnold is. Yeah. Because of how close he is to getting a new deal.
And you know what? You could even offer Saquon Barkley a deal like that. You would.
Why not?
Why not?
Why wouldn't you?
Because when you're talking about a quarterback.
The New York Giants are now on the clock.
Well, they should be. Now, the Giants are more complicated for a few reasons. From a salary cap standpoint, they would have to make things work to fit Deshaun Watson.
Correct.
And that complicates things. Leonard Williams is a free agent. Are you letting him go? So it's not as simple as hey, go trade for Deshaun Watson. But here's what it comes down to. Most teams in the NFL, I think the number is like 25. I think there are 25 teams in the NFL that could use Deshaun Watson.
Which means to me, since we're very selfish here, and we care about the Jets as Jet fans, but we did bring the Giants up for the rest of you knuckleheads, if the Jets want to make a run at it, you got to do it now. Because once 7, 8, 9, 10 other teams start getting involved, your chances of getting him dwindle. Big time.
If other teams are willing to offer quarterbacks that are ready-made, then the Jets can't compete with it if the Texans want that. If the Buffalo Bills are willing to offer Josh Allen, the Jets can't compete.
By the way, if the New York Giants say, we'll give you 3 first-round draft picks, Saquon Barkley and Daniel Jones, the New York Jets just lost Deshaun Watson.
I think there's a lot of examples of that. Right? See, if we look at it strictly...
What if to ruin my day?
Because I think about all aspects,
it's only the New York Jets and the Dolphins. And it's a lot of other teams as well.
You know what it is?
You're a day ruiner.
If it's just about draft picks, if that's the main focus, then it's about the New York Jets and the Miami Dolphins. You're right. But if all of a sudden you've got teams saying, yeah, we have a quarterback, but guess what? Deshaun's better. Yeah, we have a quarterback, but Deshaun's better. Think about it. If you think about every team in the NFL, how many teams are you saying no way to? The Kansas City Chiefs, obviously. But outside of that, I'm telling you right now, if I'm the Ravens, I'd offer Lamar Jackson. And could the Jets compete with that? No.
No, you cannot.
No.
They cannot. Well, listen, we got that going. And, of course, there's a huge story brewing right now and it's playing itself out in real time. And it's complicated, so we're going to do our best to try to uncomplicate it. And it involves the stock market, and it now involves Steve Cohen, who's now been accused by Dave Portnoy over at Barstool of, along with the Robinhood app, which is a stock trading app, along with Citadel, which is a hedge fund, investment type of group, and a number of others. They're being accused of breaking the law by restricting the trading of a stock, in this particular case, GameStop. Now, I do not want to complicate this. I do not want to, I don't want to talk about something I know very little about. I understand the concept of what they're being accused of. Now, Steve Cohen is not the Robinhood app. He does not own it. Steve Cohen has his own group called Point 72. He's been called out by Dave and other people that feel that they're getting screwed by this trading app called Robinhood on behalf of groups like Steve Cohen's and like this Citadel group. So the notion is this. I'll just break it down to you. There's a place where you can go to trade stocks, and you're supposed to be able to trade them freely. You want to risk your money and buy stocks? Go ahead. You want to risk your money, sell stocks? Go ahead. You want to short stocks, long stocks, whatever it is with stocks, you can do it. All of a sudden, there's a group of, I don't want to say amateur investors, but individual, what they call retail investors, right? Who are now making these stocks that aren't doing great suddenly jump through the roof. When those stocks jump through the roof, these billionaire hedge funds who thought the stock would go the other way lose a boatload of money. One of the companies that was losing a boatload of money was propped up with an investment by Steve Cohen. There's nothing illegal about that. There's nothing wrong with that. The belief, though, is this. There are people like Dave that now believe that Robinhood app and other digital e-trading platforms that are not letting the American public buy these stocks that they want to buy, that they want to risk their own money in, are doing it at the behest of a couple of billion-dollar hedge funds so that the hedge funds don't lose everything. And they're losing billions of dollars. So the thought and the accusation is that Steve Cohen is involved in that because he propped up one of these hedge fund companies that was getting buried by this GameStop company stock going through the roof. Now, he has responded on Twitter. Steve Cohen has said on Twitter, hey, Dave Portnoy, what's your beef with me? I'm just trying to make a living just like you. Happy to take this offline. Okay? Dave Portnoy responded. Well, it started with Portnoy saying, Dems and Republicans haven't agreed on one issue to this. That's how blatant, illegal, unfathomable today's events are. It also shows how untouchable Robinhood, Cohen, Citadel, Point 72 all think they are. Fines aren't enough. Prison or bust. So Cohen reacted to that. So Dave has now publicly reacted to the offer to talk about this offline. Okay. And now he says this. I don't do offline. That's where shady beep happens. You bailed out Melvin because he's your boy along with Citadel. I think you had a strong hand in today's criminal events to save hedge funds at the cost of ordinary people. Do you unequivocally deny that?
And he hasn't responded.
I've not seen a response to that yet.
That's a part of why being on Twitter, if you're Steve Cohen, not just as a Met owner, because it's one thing to get tweets about bullpen moves or baseball trades or hot dogs at Citi Field. How's he going to respond to that? Is he going to unequivocally deny it? No, he's not. He's not going to respond.
You don't think so?
No, because I don't think he wants to get into this kind of Twitter war.
But he's already in it.
Well, that's the mistake he made. No, You're right. The mistake he made is, and I noticed this, because obviously this has been like one of the biggest stories in America over the last 24 hours.
He also said, I'm not feeling the love on this site today. Trading is a tough game, don't you think?
Yes. So he's been kind of milking it a little bit on Twitter over the last day and a half. And that's the mistake he made. Like, I understand Steve Cohen is a billionaire whose main business is not running the New York Mets. But now all of a sudden, for those who don't know that much about the stock market, don't invest that much in the stock market, we're now sort of invested in what's happening because Steve Cohen owns the New York Mets, and we care about Steve Cohen. So, trust me, there are a lot of Met fans out there right now that are paying attention to this story more so because of the Cohen involvement.
Yeah. Listen,
Than anything else.
My kids called me from college about this today.
Oh, it's the biggest story in the
And said it's the only
country.
thing people are talking about.
Biggest story in the country.
Now, part of that is because of the popularity of Barstool and Dave, who has a couple million followers, and they represent a generation of people, and they're one of the greatest, most successful, profitable, and well-run new media company on the planet. And I have great admiration for what they do there because they're a homemade, organic success, and they deserve everything that they've earned. Everything. They're fantastic. But now it's playing itself out in real time. And from a Met fan perspective, I truly don't think this has any impact at all.
It doesn't, but you're still
on the
interested
New York
in it.
Mets. But here's the problem with it. The problem with it, I'm not even telling you that Steve Cohen did anything wrong. I don't know that he did. I know he's involved with these other hedge funds because he propped them up. He funded them. So he's involved. If they do well, he does well. That we all can see that. Doesn't mean he's done anything illegal. It just means that he's invested in their success. Here's the thing about it, though. It's the New York Mets. And it's for a lot of Met fans, it's like, come on, man. I thought once we got rid of the Wilpons and we had Steve, who didn't care if he made or lost money on this and had plenty of money to spend, that we were going to compete and the Wilpon era was going to be quickly behind us. World Series, here we come. And there's a feeling, because we've talked to a lot of people and interacted with people, and we are, Met fans. There's a overall sense of course this is happening to the Mets.
Yeah.
That's the sense.
No, and that is
right?
a part of what we have as Met fans, this worry that the other shoe is going to drop. Now, Steve Cohen has responded to
all right.
Presidente. He says, quote, "What are you talking about? I unequivocally deny that accusation.
Of course.
I had zero to do with what happened today. By the way, if I want to make an additional investment with somebody that is my right, if it's in the best interest of my investors, chill out."
Right. So what he's saying is that he propped up these other companies as an investment. And he believes those companies long-term will turn their act around and will start become profitable again. And because he was able to invest in them when they were struggling, he and his investors will make more money. Ain't nothing wrong with that.
Right. The accusation he had is that he was involved in the Robinhood app.
Right.
Telling people, which, look, I don't know much about this, but here's the basic thing I understand. It feels like the little guy is getting hosed by the big guy.
Well, I mean, they are.
Okay.
They are.
And part of that is seeing an app. And again, I'm not on the Robinhood app. I don't even like the stock market. To me, it's gambling. It's the same thing. And I don't really do much of either. But it just feels dirty that you can access an app to invest, but now they're telling you, okay, but you're not allowed to do this.
They're saying you're not allowed to buy the stock that you want to buy.
Dirty.
So if nobody can buy the stock, it automatically goes down.
That feels
If it goes down, the people that predicted it would go down make more money. You lose money. That's exactly what's happening.
But I also have no idea, and this is not me saying this as a Met fan. This is me saying this as a novice who's been following this story, but honestly, I don't know much about it. Like, I follow it, I read it because it's interesting, but I still don't comprehend everything. I don't know how Steve would be involved in Robinhood making that decision. You know what I mean?
I can tell you what the accusation is.
Okay.
The accusation is that Citadel, which is this group that he helped prop up with an investment, that the far majority of trades that Robinhood does go through this Citadel investment group.
Okay.
So if Citadel goes belly up, that negatively impacts Robinhood, a company that's trying to go public this year. So you want to do the best for Citadel.
Right.
Because if Citadel's healthy, Robinhood's healthy. If Robinhood's healthy, they go public. The Robinhood founders and their investors make a boat ton of money.
But it's not a firm accusation with proof. It's more, hey, I'm following the lines here. This would make sense.
Yeah.
And by the way, let me ask you this. Before Steve Cohen bought the New York Mets, I paid zero attention to .72 Ventures. The guy was a billionaire, but most of us listening, I can't say all of us, paid no attention to it. How much other stuff has he been involved in over the last 10 years that we would have paid attention to if he owned the New York Mets? Now he's the owner of the Mets, so of course we're paying attention to it.
Listen, and he's right. If he wants to keep putting money into Citadel or Robinhood, he's legally allowed to do that. The issue is that all of a sudden things went south for a couple of hedge funds and went north for individual private, American public investors. And that was quickly put to a stop. So, I mean, the lines are pretty easy to connect. Now, the Steve Cohen part, it's more difficult to connect because Steve Cohen does not own Robinhood. I don't know if he invests in it or not. Mm-hmm. He invests in Citadel, and Citadel runs the majority of Robinhood's trades. So this is the problem, though, when you decide to try to be cute on Twitter.
I completely agree.
And get involved with people on Twitter.
Bro, you're right.
And now you're going up with someone, let's be honest. Steve Cohen's the investment guru, maybe the best in the country for a long time. It's worth $14 billion. Last year, during the single worst year in this country's history, modern era, he made $1.7 billion. He's really, really good at what he does. Well, Dave Portnoy is that on Twitter and social media. He's really, really good at that game. So you have two guys now, titans, in their own respective industries, and those industries are now crossing paths.
Well, what happened now is
so you have a multi-billionaire going up against a guy worth over $100 million, but a guy who owns social media.
Well, because Steve Cohen's been active on Twitter, and we all thought this was going to blow up when the Mets had a bad ninth-inning loss. That was going to be where it went bad. But now what's occurred is he has found himself in an interview with Dave Portnoy, and Dave Portnoy is grilling him. I mean, Portnoy's response is grilling of questions, and Cohen's put himself in a spot now. I predicted to you before he wouldn't respond. I was dead wrong. But now he has to continue responding, Craig, because if he doesn't, it looks like he's hiding something. So now he's put himself in a spot because he's so cute and active on social media where he's being grilled by El Presidente. And he has to keep answering questions.
Listen, it ain't pretty. It's not good, no matter how you color it. But I do want to say this for Met fans. It does seem like, yet again, always something with the Mets. It's almost like the franchise itself has some kind of weird black magic voodoo on it.
Wait a second. I know there's a lot of people that feel that way. But do you honestly feel that way in this moment? Because I don't. I think Cohen made a mistake being on social media, getting his involvement in this. But it's not the same as I don't think the Mets off-season plans are about to change because of this. I don't think that all of a sudden the bad luck is returned to the New York Mets just because he's involved in this Twitter spat with Dave Portnoy. Do you think that?
Do I think what?
Do you think that there really is this badness that's returned to the New York Mets?
I do. I think. No. Badness returned to the Mets. I think
the black
it's
cloud.
I think it's what I said. It's like,
what?
How come it's always us?
But what is us?
There's always got to be something. Why can't the New York Mets just enjoy the fact that they might get Trevor Bauer, that they got Lindor? Who knows? Maybe they're talking about Arenado. There's always got to be some off-the-field garbage, it seems.
You know what, though? Here's where I disagree.
Vince Coleman had to throw firecrackers, at the Dodger parking lot and hurt people. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but what?
Jeff Wilpon had to be the numbskull that said, okay, leave the field, then go back on the field. There's always something with this organization.
But here's why it's different, at least in my opinion. Here's why it's different. By the end of this week, Trevor Bauer may sign with the Mets. By next week, they could trade for Nolan Arenado.
Yeah.
So it doesn't feel, and if I'm proven wrong, I'm proven wrong, it doesn't feel like it's hindering
I'll give you another example of why Met fans feel this way. A week ago, Jared Porter.
Wow.
Right? There's always something, it seems. I'm not saying that's accurate.
I'm not saying you're wrong.
There's a guttural feeling amongst Met fans. Here we go again.
But the difference
There's something new today.
But here's the difference.
And it ain't good.
Here's the difference, at least on my end, because I know there are some Met fans that are, again, like I said, waiting for the shoe to drop. I don't feel like the shoe's dropping. The Jared Porter thing was completely embarrassing, and it was disgusting. This stuff, I don't think it's affecting the Mets to where some negative shoe's going to drop. I think the Mets, by the end of next week, are making some kind of big move. So, and then overall, most Met fans are going to say this was a hell of an offseason.
You might want to make the argument the Mets kind of have to make a big move now, just to prove to everybody that this stuff with Robinhood and Citadel and all these other billion-dollar hedge funds is having no impact on the New York Mets team.
Especially after they cleared $5 million to trade Steven Matz.
Matter of fact, if I'm Steve Cohen, I go tell Sandy Alderson, look, Arenado, go get him. Bauer, go get him. Jackie Bradley Jr., go get him.
So then how is this a bad thing?
Well,
you've just described a great thing.
Yeah, I don't think that's going to happen.
No, I don't think
I'm just saying I think it'd be great if it did happen. That would dispel the notion of, here we go again.
Yeah.
Here we go again.
I know that feeling is going to be in the blood of most of us, and I still have it with my teams to a certain degree, but I got to tell you right now, I don't have it. I think the Mets are going to make another significant move. I don't think his involvement in what's going on Wall Street is going to have any difference on it. Did he make a mistake, and is he making a mistake on social media being so involved? Probably. But I don't feel like the Wilpon cloud is back. I really don't. I still feel liberated that the Wilpons aren't around.
Really? Even after your general manager was sexually harassing a woman?
It was embarrassing that they hired this guy.
Wow, I mean, no one else
was incredibly embarrassing. But you know what? I said this to you before.
Yeah.
A part of me thinks it would have been handled worse if the Wilpons owned the team. So
maybe. I suppose that's certainly possible.
Correct, because you even said it. The one thing you gave Cohen credit, well, you've given Cohen credit for a few things, is you said, man, he acted swiftly. They acted swiftly. I'm not sure if past administrations would have. So I still feel like it's a different era of Met baseball.
Dave has now responded. I reached out. I'll see if we can put Dave on.
Yeah.
And do me a favor, reach out to the Mets. See if Steve Cohen wants to come on and walk Met fans through this. It's the biggest story in the country right now. And it's not because of anything good. So Dave's now asking your professional opinion. Why was trading halted? And he lists 4 or 5 stocks that had been shorted by the billionaire hedge funds that the common investor was making money in. I'd be very curious. Well, that's what he said. So we'll see.
That's the thing. He and Steve responded with, good question. Those questions should be directed at Robinhood, etc. I'm a trader just like you are. When you find out, give me a holler.
So
I do think the broker should make a statement. Seems reasonable. So he's responding.
Yeah, he's saying, I don't know why Robinhood stopped people from buying the stock.
Right.
We all know why they stopped people from buying the stock. They were protecting hedge funds. That's the only reason.
But we don't know if he was involved in it. That's the question. And he's clearly denying that.
Well, as he has to. I told you.
I know that. I'm just saying.
Now he's playing. Now he's involved in a game that's not good.
He shouldn't have been doing this on Twitter. That's why.
Yeah. Well, listen. I reached out to Barstool, and I guess just full. What's what I'm looking for?
Transparency?
Full transparency. I'm friendly with those guys. I love those guys. I almost worked for those guys, and I support those guys. So that's just where I stand on my feeling about Dave and Erica, who's the CEO. And everyone knows I'm friendly with KFC and all that stuff. So that's just, I want to put that out there. Like, I support what they do.
By the way, speaking of KFC, who I like as well, KFC, who loves the Mets, loves Steve Cohen, tweeted at Steve Cohen, and this cracked me up. I'm literally begging you, Steve Cohen. I'm literally begging you to stop. I can help you, but the first thing you need to do is stop.
That's right. But that's what we've been saying.
No, I know.
He's playing this game that, as bright as he is, as powerful and talented as he is, this is not his game.
Yeah.
It's not. So, all right, well, listen, we'll see how this day plays out. I have no money in the stock market, just in case everyone needs to know that. Right. And there you have it. So
I have very little in the stock market.
There you go.
To me,
I guess you should have bought GameStop while you could.
I should have
made some money on that thing.
Clearly.
So it's another regular day here in New York City. But we'll be in the middle of it, and we'll get to the bottom of it for sure. 877-337-6666. Coming to you live from the Town Fair Tire Studios, powered by Town Fair Tire. Nobody beats Town Fair Tire. I got a package in the mail today. Package came in the mail today from my dear friends at fanatics.com. That's where you buy all your licensed sports goods. Here it is.
Oh, it's disgusting.
Here it is.
It's horrible. Get it out of here.
It is still in the wrapper.
Ugh.
And a little bit later on this afternoon, I will open the wrapper and I will try it on.
You're really going to put that on?
I will try it on.
You're really going to sell your soul that much where you're going to put that just disgusting red jersey on?
Yes, I am.
That number 12 red jersey?
That's right. Just like Joe Willie Namath.
Ugh.
Yeah.
No,
so we'll get to that a little bit later on
You don't
today.
get to mention Joe Namath's
But
name
I did
anymore.
want to acknowledge that it came in the mail.
Good.
Just as they said it would. And I'm very excited. I hope it fits, by the way.
Would you be mad at me if I intercepted it and burned it?
You're going to burn things now?
But would you be upset?
You're so violent.
I'm asking a hypothetical.
Why are you so violent?
I'm not violent.
That was very violent.
It's a hypothetical. I'm hypothetically violent. If I intercepted that package and lit it on fire, would that bother you?
Yes, of course it would.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Good thing I didn't do
Why
that.
would it not
I
bother
don't know.
me?
Maybe you'd like the smell.
Taking my property and burning it? Yes, for the record, I would have a problem if somebody took my property and burned it. Yes,
even
I
if
would say
there
that.
even if there was a good reason for it.
Even if there's no good reason to take something I own
You're a Jet
and burn
fan.
it.
You're a Jet fan, and in your possession, you have the jersey of the #1 nemesis in the last 20 years. So, yeah, I think it's a good thing.
I don't believe that burning my personal property is ever something I would tolerate.
Okay.
But I appreciate you asking before doing it.
Craig, that's why I asked.
That's a friend.
Of course. I wouldn't just do it.
Here he shows up at my house with like a 2-liter bottle of gasoline and a lighter. Before we light it on fire, he's got the mob behind him on horseback, right? The posse's out there. Before we burn down your crib, we will ask you one time. Are you okay with us burning down your crib?
Aren't I honorable?
I'd rather you not burn the house down. Posse to another house.
Exactly.
That'd be great.
I'm a class guy, Craig.
You would have been great during the Wild Wild West.
Yes.
That'd have been a good spot
Do
for
you
you.
mind if I do this to you? Yeah, you're good with that? All right, great.
Do you think you could have been able to ride the horse while carrying the fiery torch? Or do you think you would have needed like an assistant horse carrying the torch so you could just ride?
If we're being honest, I probably would need an assistant horse
I think
so I could focus on riding the horse.
Plus, I'm not sure if the torch would go out.
Yeah, because
Right?
you're moving, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
How much further? To the crib burning. I was like, what was that? What was the Wild Wild West? 18 what?
1870s, 80s, 90s?
Was it that late?
I think so.
Yeah.
Maybe it was the whole 19th century, wasn't it?
I don't know.
I mean, what's the difference? Wasn't it the Wild West in 1820 and 1890? I'm not too sure, actually.
Not sure about that. That's a good question.
I'm gonna look it up.
Look it up.
I want to be
Billy
factually
the Kid.
accurate. Yes.
When was Billy the Kid, engaging in like saloon, gunshot, gun
Let's
shootings?
see, Billy the Kid.
Early 1800s?
Well,
Maybe later than
he
that,
was
right?
born in 1859 and he died in 1881, so you got to figure the 1870s.
1870s.
Yeah.
That's when Billy the Kid and Jesse James and the gang, that's when they were doing all their thing?
Well, according to the American Front, if you look at, I Googled American Frontier, the Old West is technically from 1850 to 1924.
Wow.
That's
All
a
right.
pretty big time period.
Yeah. We probably can crack that down into
It's definitely not into 1924.
I would agree with that.
That's absurd.
When was the gold rush?
I think the gold rush was like in the 1830s, if I'm not mistaken.
Got it.
Let me look that up, though, because again, I
Or
want to
was it
confirm my guess.
1849, the 49ers?
Yeah, it was. You know what? It was 1848 to 1855.
Yeah, that's why they're called
Right.
the 49ers.
There you
Got
go.
it.